Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Help promote and rank up my channel. Ring that bell for notifications if you do subscribe. So we're back to review the latest episode of Loki, episode 4. This episode felt like Wizard of Oz meets The Last Jedi. They cover a lot of ground this episode, unlike last week's filler episode, but it's still underwhelming with 2 episodes left. This episode has some positives, more so than last week, but it also has a lot of negatives. Things that are quite the stretch for someone even like Mr. Fantastic. And quite honestly, I'm surprised by the amount of positivity surrounding this episode in particular. So spoilers, let's go ahead and get to the positives. Pick up where we left off with Loki and Lady Loki trapped on this doomed planet. It actually makes for a pretty good romantic setting as they have this set down in which Loki gives Lady Loki, or Sylvia, whatever you want to call her, some pretty damn high praise. I mean, it's a pretty moving compliment. It feels a bit unusual, though, given everything we know about Loki, it coming from Loki. It does feel almost not authentic. However, Tom Hiddleston's performance, very convincing. And this is a really defining moment for Loki. It causes fluctuations in the time, allowing the TVA to detect it and them to come pick them up. Them separately with intent to interrogate. And we get it's great to get Owen Wilson back because honestly I like his character on this show. I mean, it's pretty much Owen Wilson, but the way Mobius is, he's so tactically ahead of the game, but very manipulative, able to trick the trickster. Really love the chemistry with this character when he bounces off other characters, like trying to interrogate them, one-up them, look for their tells. We get a Lady Sif cameo. Even, unfortunately, though, I thought it was going to be like actual Lady Sif. It's just a memory of Loki's that it gets trapped in as they detain them separately. Loki gets thrown into a bad memory with Lady Sif consistently, repeatedly coming up, hitting him in the face, the balls. And it took a little longer than I would have liked for Loki to... I don't know why shows always do this. It took a little longer than I would have liked for Loki to tell Mobius that you guys are all variants. You've been taken from your timelines, hijacked, kidnapped, abducted, brainwashed, and used to serve the TVA. It was really interesting to see like Mobius manipulate Loki into thinking that Lady Loki was already dead. Just the expression and Mobius's expression, like, yeah, I got you. Pretty much in love with Lady Loki, which is kind of a fascinating insight as someone as narcissistic as Loki, and he's really coming to a lot of realizations in this episode. But it really makes sense. You gotta learn to love yourself before you can love anybody else. I kind of take it as that. It's not just this sick, twisted, wanna F yourself. I actually wrote a screenplay like this before, where a character goes on this journey with a female version of himself across all these different timelines, where they encounter themselves. And over the course of the journey, he starts to fall in love with the female version of himself. And across all the timelines, they're all losers. So this is really weird that Disney, even though it's very different from mine, it's very weird that Disney is doing something like this. That information that Loki kind of dropped on Owen Wilson, it leads him to have his guard up when it comes to talking to Renslayer and learning a bit more. He has his hands on her phone when her back is turned for a moment, which I buy more than a lot of the other security stuff going on in this episode, because there's a lot of really questionable things going on in this episode with security. Quite honestly, the only other thing I can say that was a real positive in this episode was just the relationship between Renslayer and Mobius, and how it goes from like charming and romantic to just cold and dead. When Mobius kind of tries to rescue Loki, and they get confronted there. It's just, you know it's coming, and it's pretty bad. It's going to be pretty bad. He talks about his jet skis. Maybe he owned one in his previous life and all that, and this confrontation ends with him being pruned. And you get one more moment in here that's pretty positive. Loki kind of nervous about admitting his feelings to Sylvia. And before it can happen, he's pruned too. So pretty fascinating to see the timekeepers face to face, even though in the end credits scene you see that Loki's not actually dead, and there's all these other Lokis. You've got Diversity Matters Loki, boy Loki, and then you've got classic Loki. Let the Loki revolution begin. This actually could get interesting. But there are some people so blind by their love of everything MCU, can't help but overlook the negatives.
You're really good at doing awful things and then just getting away.
The negatives on this one, this episode really pushes it, straining the credibility of the TVA. Their security just sucks. A small child can escape with ease and go on the run, eluding them long enough to grow up, whereas an unaccountable number of adults can't. Then there's B-15, I think her name is. Not only can she just stroll in on an important meeting with the timekeepers, but this hard ass that takes her job so serious is shaken to the core by what could have just been illusions, and just takes Sylvia out of her prison, time leap for a talk, and allows Sylvia to further possibly manipulate her is such a stretch. How did this organization ever make it this far if their security is this garbage? I mean, there's a face-to-face meeting with the mysterious timekeepers and a fight in this throne room that feels really silly because B-15, who everybody is on high alert for, just barges in the throne room when they're having this sentencing for Sylvia and Loki with 2 high-risk variants. No reason security should be this loose. Let's not forget how Lady Loki and Loki get caught in the first place, because there's a spike unlike any they've seen before, a Nexus event. But did I miss the point where they solved the whole crisis of Sylvia dropping bombs all over the timeline that would cause ripple effects and disguise their movements? Wasn't that what that was all about? That big event that they actually did well in comparison to the rest of this stuff that's followed? This whole episode hinges on them going and picking them up from a soon to be doomed planet where they would die anyway. From what I understand, they go there to save them, to interrogate them and bring them before the timekeepers. What they were worried about all along, that Loki wanted FaceTime with the timekeepers. I don't know, maybe it's all going over my head and I'm stupid.
Guilty of a crime against the sacred timeline. Absolutely not, you have the wrong person.
Throughout the prod that we know doesn't kill people, it displaces them in a pocket dimension, and little time bombs, I guess they do the same. Is this where the variants go to get mind wiped? Is Loki behind all this? Is that why the organization is so obsessed with Loki? It would make sense with all the self-loathing going on in this show that Renslayer only has strong connections to King in the comics. Maybe it's a bait and switch. Overall though, overall score for this, 5 out of 10. Good strong moments, but absent of logic. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on it. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. Stay awesome and rock on, and stay tuned for the next review of Loki.